Have you never been in here before? That's interesting. You're like a homie. Good to see you. All right, let's do this, Ryan.
Let's do it.
What's up, everyone? It's Saturday morning. Yes, that means I'm waking you up for Cafe BTW, a gaming morning podcast, and really excited because I have a friend of the show, a friend of a friend in my, meeting him in the retro Twitter world back in the day. We've known each other a long time, Ryan, but it's Ryan, Retrogamebrews, and the host of the Gamers Week podcast. What's up, man?
Not much. Just happy to be here today, man. Always a pleasure to be on Cafe BTW.
Yeah, dude, it's always good to have you. I feel like this is probably your third or fourth time on the show. I can't recall, but you've been on the show for a long time.
Yeah, I think if it's the fourth, that's awesome.
Well, we started the show literally at the start of the pandemic. Like it was
Right.
March of 2020. To think that, wow, it's going on almost 3 years, but I think you were on that first year. I'm almost certain. We did like music or something like video game music, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. You're here now. How's it been, man? How's life? How's everything? You've been busy with the new podcast. You want to tell us a little bit about the new podcast? How's it been? It's been a few months now, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
and
more.
the reception that we've gotten for Gamers Week has been phenomenal. So we, as a podcast, started up in January of this year. And right now we've got about 35 episodes out there for folks to listen to. We do it on a weekly basis. And one of the things that we cover is kind of the video game news of the week, right? So we focus a lot of attention on some of the breaking news stories. We provide our insight to them and analyze some of the information. We also do a few other things, including a gaming history 101 section where we talk about stories behind the games in the past. We also do a retro rewind where we take a look at a particular month in a year and talk about all the things that were happening during that time frame. And it's been a phenomenal ride so far. And again, the reception that we've been getting from folks have been telling us that they really, really enjoy it. And, the numbers are also showing that too. So everything's been really, really great.
That's awesome. And thanks, Red, for stopping by. She says, you're right. It's my first time here because I'm usually asleep. And Wizard of Zardos, am I saying that right? Morning. Welcome.
Yeah.
You're a first time chatter too. Good to see some people. Oh, and it's virtually a podcast is here too. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you. And look at these fantastic reviews, Ryan. 5.0 for Ryan's podcast. Amazing. This is an amazing podcast. Here's another one. Instant Fan, one of the best gaming news update podcasts around. The three hosts, Ryan, Blue, and Donnie, strike a creative balance. Oh, yeah, I forgot. We had all three of you on the show. That was awesome.
Yep.
That was not too long ago, I want to say, when you guys kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bigger reason why Ryan is here with me today, because we really have something special coming back for our second year in a row. And I think, Ryan, we're going to be making this a thing. I think that's obvious. And also the reception's been really positive. But it's basically our Mario Kart charity stream tournament, the second annual, because we did this last year around the Up to Us Stand Up to Cancer event. We're back this year with the same event that's happening around Stand Up to Cancer support. And Ryan and I are like, well, why don't we bring it back? And we actually talked about bringing it back immediately after the first one, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it was such a good time, and obviously again for a great cause. But we raised what $1,500 last year.
We did.
And that was just a phenomenal experience, and thought this needs to be a thing.
Yeah, and it's pretty much we met on Twitter, Retroverse, and it really encompasses. There's a lot of people there's a few people not from the Twitter world that are retro gamers with us, but I would say it's mostly that community, and I think it's one of my favorite. And Ryan, I'm on TikTok, I'm on all these things, but really the heart and soul of the retro community, in my opinion, is still Twitter. And I think it's one of the most positive, least toxic parts of the retro community. Do you still agree? I mean, I know we still have our spats here and there on Twitter, but
Of course.
I still love the Twitter community. I think it's one of the best, in my opinion.
And I think you're right. I don't know what it is about Twitter that kind of leads to that, but you're right. I think that a lot of times it's much more encouraging than it is toxic, and there is a huge community out there. It's amazing to me how often I run into somebody who I've never interacted or never seen before, that's big into retro stuff, and it's like, oh, look at that, another person that I can kind of interact with and share nostalgia, if you will. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and to give you a good perspective of that is, as you know, I used to be producer BTW. I lost my Twitter account. It had like 13,000 followers on it. And I had to start over. And Ryan, my account is still suspended. I've lost that thing. But what's really interesting is I restarted fresh again. Love Retro BTW, which is my Twitch, so it was only fitting that my Twitter be that. But it was really showed how strong our community was because a lot of people just came back and supported me, and I've been able to really get my footing set again. And I feel like I'm going to hit 10K in no time, and it really shows a lot of love that I've gotten over the last year or so since I lost my account. So it's funny
Well,
because go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, well, for you as well, I think that you are kind of a positive force out there to begin with. So
Thanks, man.
I'm not surprised to see that you've bounced back. You're always out there providing excellent content as well as being encouraging to folks. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great job.
Thanks. I mean, you know me. I'm like, I probably like one of the biggest enthusiasts. I care about our community. I love everyone, really. I've had my spats here and there, and I've not been shy to say a few things, but for the most part, I'm very positive.
Mhm.
Always. Wizard says I've met many good people thanks to the retro community on Twitter. It's just funny because Twitter is usually considered this toxic,
Right.
like, wormhole of everything is toxic on Twitter, but not the retro community. And it's not. I go to TikTok and look, I love the TikTok community, but there's still like a lot of like spats and back and forths, and I've seen a lot of like. I mean, Ryan, do you know? Do you like the? Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
The N64 controller, right? Do you
Mhm.
hate the N64 controller? And I'll tell you why I'm asking you.
Let's put it this way. I don't like it because I find it awkward. But hate's a strong word. Let's put it that way. I'll
Hate's
say
a strong.
hate's a strong word.
But there was like a kind of like back and forth on TikTok of like people hating the N64 controller. And for me personally, dude, I had no idea people hated it so much. I had no idea. Me personally, I like the Nintendo 64 controller. I think it just reminds me of playing like Super Mario 64 and like, but I didn't realize until I was on TikTok how many people didn't like the N64 controller. I guess I get that. It's a weird looking thing. I mean, it's strange looking. It's got like 3 legs. It's
Right.
it's strange. Anyway, before we go into our topic today, which is really cool, I know that you are a huge football fan like me. We're both in the same division in a sense. You're a Bills fan. I'm a Jets fan. Like I said before, I feel like our two teams in the division get along the best, but our games are always like you never know what the hell's going to happen. And
Right.
it's never fun in a sense of like knowing if we're going to win, you know?
Right.
That's how I feel with a Bills Jets game. But we're going to be talking about just like, let's look at the history and evolution of NFL football video games. But I want to ask you, as I always ask someone to share a story of something they remember from their childhood, let's focus on football video games. What's a football video game or something from your childhood you remember playing as a kid?
NFL Blitz was a big one in our household growing up. And I remember the first time I had experienced NFL Blitz was actually in the arcade. So we had a arcade in our local mall called Time Out, which was in the
Love the name.
Cafeteria area. Or what's the term I'm looking for? Where all the food is.
The cafeteria.
Okay, you know what? That's where we're gonna go.
Wait, is it in your house or are we talking?
No, at the mall. I'm trying to think of food court. Food court was the word I was looking for. There we go. So
food court. Oh yeah, the food court at the mall, right?
Yeah. So you would go into the food court, and then obviously we'd all beeline to time out. And then I remember just the sounds of the game because the announcer is there. And then a bunch of kids huddled around this machine, and you look into it, and football games in the arcade weren't as popular as like fighting games or shooters or anything like that. But to see so many kids kind of piled around NFL Blitz was super cool. And then all of a sudden, it was available on console, and we were all at it, and we would play. Me and my brother and his friends would come over and play, hours and hours of NFL Blitz. And the funnest part about it was after the play, you got to like body slam
them like a wrestler.
Right. And so that was hugely appealing, I think, especially as a kid.
What
being
a
able to do that.
what I have fond memories of Blitz in the arcade and playing with my brother. By the way, a gamer looks at 40 podcast. What are you going to do when you turn 50, man? He said, walking in an RGB conversation about hating the N64 conversation. This tracks. Hello, fellas. What's up, man? Good to see you, Bill. Hey,
Yeah, thanks,
Manny.
Bill.
What's up, Manny? Good to see you, man. And Red says it's 8 a.m. You can call it whatever you want. A gamer looks at 40 says, why was that a terrible sentence? I liked early Madden when it didn't turn into insane sports simulator and got too complicated. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about NFL Blitz. But I think for me personally, I've been a football fan since I was a kid. I was lucky enough to have my dad take us to Jet games when I was a little kid at the Meadowlands because I lived in North Jersey. And we only lived about 20 minutes from the Meadowlands. So we had real close access to the Jets and Giants. But I will say this, as a kid that went to high school in North Jersey, mostly Giant fans, and they were really, I will never forgive Giant fans for the way they treated me in high school. They used to treat me like crap, like make fun of me. I mean, I'm a Jets fan. I still get made fun of. It's a part
Out of curiosity, what made you choose the Jets over the Giants?
It's my dad.
Yeah.
My dad, but my family's from Queens, Flushing originally. So,
Yep.
so the Jets played at Shea Stadium where the Mets played, and my dad literally is a first generation Jets fan. He saw Joe Namath play in Shea Stadium.
Wow.
He got to experience a Super Bowl. So it was all my dad. And when the Jets moved to the Meadowlands, we also moved to North Jersey when I was a little kid. So it all worked out. We also would go to the training camps at Hofstra University in Long Island.
Yep.
That's where the Jets practiced. Yeah, man, that's really it. And I'm glad I'm not a Giants fan because there's a certain Giant. So the Giants fan base is interesting compared to the Jets. The Jets are like the working culture, like, and then the Giants are like and the Giants are like the corporate culture. It's really interesting the how they're so different. But I've learned to not hate the Giants less. I hate them less now. But but I've been playing football video games as far back as I can remember. And I'll get into it, but let's start with just Ryan, let's start looking through what I've pulled up here. Yep. And I think this is the electronic football handheld. Did you have this, or do you remember this? Does this look familiar to you?
I remember it. I didn't have it, but Mattel came out with this, and I think it kind of was revolutionary in the sense. But if you look at it, I mean, if you've ever played it, it's very basic. But for the time, imagining being able to play a game interactively in your hand versus having to have it on a TV screen or going to an arcade was huge, absolutely huge.
Hell yeah.
So, and then the crazy part about this is that it's so nostalgic that they've actually re-released this, I think, a few times for people to play. I mean, I believe
I think you can still buy it today.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So clearly there's enough nostalgia out there that it warranted a remake, if you will.
The Mason, what's up, Travis? A fellow high school Jersey kid. He says, "What game do you think Wilson will come back?" Oh man, I don't want to get into that, but I'll say week 2, Travis, week 2. And then Gamers looks at 40, says, "Giants have prestige and history. The Jets have Joe Namath in the butt fumble." No, incorrect. The Jets have Joe Namath and Mark Sanchez has the butt fumble. Okay, I put it on him. Wizard says, "My early memories with old Madden games were fun, especially the training mini games to develop your players." Yeah, so this game, I think I had it. I honestly do, but how is this fun? How is this even? I don't even understand how you play this. Man, it's funny to look at this stuff. It's so archaic, looking compared to today, So speaking of archaic, we're gonna start looking at the evolution of video games. Here is Atari 2600 football. And I don't know if they look like ETs and a little bit of a Pong there, but what is this? Does this even look like football, right?
It look like astronauts or something.
What the hell is this?
3 players aside as well, right? So
it's 3-on-3 football, right?
Yeah. Though I got to say this was ambitious for the time.
Yeah, no, totally.
Overall, for an Atari game, most of them were 2D side scrollers. So having something that was relatively 3D was ambitious. More in, we'll say, concept than in practice as far as the success of that. But
You
yeah,
know,
if this is the only football game you had to play, then sweet.
the 2600 was so interesting. It was like so graphically, like it didn't have a lot of power, but I was impressed by a few games. Like I think Pitfall is one game that really pushed the engine of whatever existed on the 2600, because that game is amazing side-scrolling platformer, or however you want to call it. But obviously this looks a little strange. I never play. I might have played this actually. I'm not sure. The Mason says, "What's up, buddy? NCAA football will be huge next year." Oh yeah, that's right. NCAA football is coming back to the video
That's
game
right.
space. I'm
Yep.
excited for that as well. Manny says, "Broadway Joe is still the only QB to guarantee a Super Bowl win." That is correct, and we won. So thank God. Imagine the Jets didn't win that. It would have been this whole history of like Joe Namath guarantees a Super Bowl and the Jets lost. It would have been a mess. But it's Virtual Podcast says, "I played that thing and have no clue what the fuck it was happening." I think you're referring to the handheld. All right, so moving along, and these are some games I've never played. This is in television,
Yep.
NFL football, and now it's starting to look like football, right? It's coming to life. What do you think
Actually
of
might
this
have
one?
this. Again, all of a sudden it goes from a graphical bunch of blobs into something that represents a football field a lot better. So
It sure
again,
does.
like a step forward in the evolution of it. And look, these guys look like they're actually running. They're not static objects that are holding onto a square.
And I
So
wonder if the red means that that's who you are. I don't know. I know the black means the quarterback probably, and then the red is, I guess, trying to
which
figure
is
that.
another evolution, right? Because at the time, I think with the original football, it wasn't so obvious. So uh, kind of cool that they would allow you, or that was the next step in gaming, was to provide you with some insight into which player you were. So if you wanted to change or whatever, you could do that. That's a step forward in
That's
the
a
right
step
direction.
forward.
Yep.
That's definitely forward thinking. Another game here. This is ColecoVision Super Action Football. Looks a little similar. Actually, it actually seems like more like a football game.
Right.
The field is scrolling. The ball is bouncing. This is
There are
cool.
fans as well.
There are specks of fans in the audience. I love and then there's a little ref here. You see the ref with his hands
Yep.
on his waist. This is really cool looking. Actually, I'm impressed. Never played it. I'm sure it's not good, but Coleco football looks legit. Actually, it actually does. I got to look into this one. This one is impressive. But you could see that it's they're wow. Do you see that little he just threw like a little short pass there to the running back. Holy moly, that's awesome. All right, so moving right along, we got our Commodore 64 game. This is called On-Field Football. This is
I've never seen this before.
They look like they have like space helmets. Oh, what? Why is the ad coming up? I have premium YouTube. YouTube. That's weird. I do. I thought I did.
Oh, look at that.
This one's not terrible. It kind of looks like 10-yard fight,
Yep. I was just about to say that. Yeah.
but it looks better than 10-yard fight. Except they look like astronauts. Am I right or am I right?
Oh, you're 100% right. Absolutely.
Let me switch, make sure that we're on my. I just re-upped my YouTube Premium today. And I don't know if you know, but YouTube Premium is absolutely worth it in my opinion, especially when you have a show so you don't get all these like ads popping up.
I just signed up with it last month.
And dude,
Ironically enough, because I was thinking of you.
but yeah, but the thing is, once you start using it and ads don't exist, if you go to a YouTube and you see the ads popping up, you're like, holy shit, I forgot all about ads. It's worth it, people.
I had it for a while and then I kind of let it lapse and then signed up again because they were offering a free month. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it again.
Manny says, thanks for reminding me to get an oil change. You're welcome, Manny. And shout out to Manny. He's a TikToker, Ryan. Great guy. He lives in California. We actually met in person. I think he's like one of the first TikTokers that I met in person. I don't know. I am really sorry, everyone. I literally paid my subscription and YouTube is trying to sneak ads in. But this is called, Ryan, this is Great American Football for the Sega Master System. This is
Oh wow, it's like Techno Ball, like just starting to get there, right?
except they look like little minions. What the hey?
You know what's nice though is the fluidness of basically it sticks with the guy who's holding the ball, so it looks like they're moving along with it, and the screen is scrolling with it. That's something that wasn't, I think, as well done in the past. So it's starting to get to like that, with Tecmo Bowl where it follows along with you, so that it feels like you're actually there.
I agree. That's not terrible. Now this is another one called, and look at all these football games they had, like even before, like kind of like where football games start to become what we know today. This is Fourth and Inches for the PC. So I think it's like Amiga, all those. This is looking cool. Let's see. Let's let it play. So these guys got better jerseys. They look like a little bit more like it's forming. That was a field goal kick. Interesting. I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, me
or
neither.
seen it. This is weird, but it's cool. I like it.
A lot of flashing though.
Yeah, the flashing though is kind of weird. Oh, he's got the ball. What's he gonna do? Yeah, it keeps cutting.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah.
Manny says, you are the first TikToker I have met also. It was a great experience. Oh, man. I appreciate that. All right, so here is 10-Yard Fight, which is a game I remember playing very vividly as a kid on the NES. It was probably one of my first NFL video games that I played. Did you have any relationship with 10-Yard Fight?
I didn't. So oddly enough, that wasn't something until I was an adult that I get a chance to play. For some reason or another, it just wasn't, one of the games we picked up.
So I actually like this game. It looks a little strange. Like, you see how the runner has his team around him, but when you get through it, like, one guy will disappear. See that? Like, the guy takes the other guy down. It's a funny game. I used to, believe it or not, when I first started streaming live on TikTok, I was playing this.
Yeah.
And I actually know how to play it, and you could actually have fun doing it if you know what you're doing. Let me go to, this is like the kickoff return. Let's see if we can go to, a play set. Let's see if we can show you. What is this? So you see how this is him, running. It's actually not terrible. But it was very, for the NES, the graphics were pretty bad. Bill says, I love the title. Great football. Seems quite a bit. It's Virtually Podcast says Fourth and Inches, best title for a football game or adult film. That's great. Okay, so we're gonna move on from 10-Yard Fight, and of course, I'm sure you have memories of this one. What is your connection to Tecmo Bowl?
Interestingly enough, played it a lot as a kid, sure, but it's more of a recent thing that I've had a better connection with Tecmo Bowl.
What's going on here?
So, with it available on the Switch Online, that has kind of opened the door when it comes to Tecmo Bowl. Now, what's funny about the Switch Online version, of course, is you don't get the names of the players because they don't have the licensing for that anymore. But ended up doing some tournaments as a result of that via Twitch, and sometimes just hop on once in a while and play with friends. But RBI Baseball versus Tecmo Bowl, that Twitter account is a big player in kind of yearly Tecmo Bowl contests that they have, championships, if you will. And, it's amazing that the community behind Tecmo Bowl is still thriving. So there are people who play kind of almost on a regular basis. There are leagues and things as well that people get in contact with or get a chance.
Very popular today.
Right. And, what's interesting, too, is that nowadays what they'll do is take modern players and kind of update them every single year. So you will have, rather than, Joe Montana throwing the ball, you've got, Josh Allen throwing the ball. But still kind of the same core gameplay, and it's still super, super fun. I think one of the interesting parts is that in the kind of the zeitgeist of Tecmo Bowl, everybody thinks Bo Jackson. He's overpowered, right? You got to play as as LA or Oakland, and if you talk to people who are really, really serious about Tecmo Bowl, they will tell you that it's the Giants or San Francisco are the teams that you should, or maybe even Dallas, that you should play for because they're a much more balanced team overall. Where Oakland is, they got all they got is pretty much Bo Jackson, and that's it. So if you've got somebody who's really good with defense, you can kind of shut them down. But
They've made Bo Jackson so OP. And Bill says, Tecmo Bowl is a mystery to me. I don't know why it works so well, but damn, it does. Yeah, they really figured it out for back then. I just think they made it more arcade style, and I think it just worked out for them. I played so much of this game, and it is definitely one of the greatest football, games ever made. It'd be interesting if they ever if EA, we'll get into the EA license thing, but they ever made a modern Tecmo Bowl, like a modern Tecmo Bowl. That would be interesting.
have you ever played the arcade for Tecmo Bowl?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
I will say I think that the NES version is actually superior to the arcade. The arcade is obviously a quarter grabber. And a lot of it is focused on trying to shuffle off defenders as you go through. But for some reason or another, I think Tecmo Bowl for the NES is the superior example, which is rare, right? Finding a game that is ported that plays better, I think, than the original.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tecmo Bowl was the first football game to really make you feel like, oh my God, we're playing football competitively on a video game format. Or at least, I think, in my opinion, that's when it started to really click. In 1988, though, the first Madden came out on I believe, the PC. And what's interesting about the story of Madden, Ryan, is that and don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that EA was in Northern California at the time, and Madden was in Oakland, and they wanted someone to help them develop a football game, and they actually approached Madden if he was interested in helping them kind of like talk through how to like not how to have a football mind help them develop a game. And Madden agreed, but Madden was very strict, and he wanted them to really do their. I mean, this looks archaic, to be honest with you, but this is where it all started. This is where, like, I think the modern era of video game football really took hold, and that's when Madden came out, and it goes as far back as 1988. But I don't know if you have a connection to Madden when you played Madden for the first time, but I think that, even though this is the first one and it doesn't look like Madden, like a what you believe, what you know as a Madden, but I think it's fascinating that Madden was involved in the development, which I thought was really cool. And rest in peace, John. We miss you. He passed away. I think it was like last year.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about John Madden football is that it finally gets into the play calling aspect of it. I mean, yes, with Tecmo Bowl, you were given 4 plays, you had to choose, either run or pass. But this one, it really gets into kind of the X's and O's, and that's obvious influence from John Madden, which makes the game a little bit more variable, right? You can pick from a lot of different options when it comes to plays versus having only 4 choices, right?
Yes. And then this is the 1990 Genesis version of Madden, where it's starting to come to life. It's starting to breed that style of Madden. I think this is where it really got its training wheels off and really just started moving forward. And I think a lot of the Genesis had some amazing football games, Ryan. I think some of my favorite football games were on the Genesis, and this is actually probably one of the best Madden Genesis games, which is Madden 94, and you could see how polished it is. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, 16-bit polished Madden here. And it was fantastic.
I like it in particular because the Bills are really, really good during that era.
Oh, you had everybody. You had the good team, right? 94. Oh man. You had everybody. Andre Rison, right? Was Andre Rison back then? No, maybe he wasn't back then. Yeah, he was.
It was Andre Reed.
I'm sorry, Andre Reed.
Yep,
Why am I saying
Bruce
Rison?
Smith.
Bruce Smith and
Herman
Don
Thomas.
Beebe.
Don Beebe, yep.
He's the only Bills guy that actually won a Super Bowl, right? He went to the Packers and won a Super Bowl, and he's like, "This is for the Bills." Manny says the Genesis version was so much fun. It was. Now, I don't want to forget a game that I enjoyed as well. Let me try to find it here. Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. Now, This is an interesting game because this is where the commentator was first used, where you actually hear the voice, and the voice goes, you're you can go all the way, or I forget what he would say, but he would say these moments, and it really was one of the first games to really bring in a commentator into a video game. So I thought Joe Montana Sports Talk Football was awesome. Did you play it?
I didn't until later on, but I actually purchased recently complete in box Genesis, and the NFL pack includes Joe Montana Sports Talk Football.
I think Joe Montana Sports Talk Football 2 is not that cheap, actually. I think it's getting it's pricey. This is the best version of it, though. The second one, it's a freaking classic, though. And in the Madden style was very up and down. This is kind of horizontal, but I kind of like this style too. But I would, I'll just be honest. Like look at that zoom in. Like, isn't that cool? That's freaking neat. Being a Jets fan, for the most part, over the course of these years of being a football fan, using the Jets in games, they always were bad. I think the Jets are actually playing the Bills right here. I think it's the Bills. Yeah, it looks like it's the Bills. I love that zoom in mechanic. That's really cool.
Of course, you had to show it when the Jets tackle for loss on the
Bills. So this is obviously the modern era is really getting their stuff together. Here is NFL Blitz. This is NFL Blitz 2000 for the N64, which actually, did you play it on the 64?
Played on the PlayStation.
Which I think they was the NFL Blitz 2000 both PlayStation and N64 at the time? Maybe
I think so.
Am I thinking the right generation? I don't know. This game is fantastic, just in general.
The commentator alone was just a huge aspect to this. We would quote it all the time, like "Come on!" and we would watch football games, and they would kick an extra point and go "Tack on the extra point." So all the things that we would quote from this made it even more fun, I think, too, because it became a part of like football culture.
Yes, but now let's not forget the weird, funny, outlandish games like Cyberball, which was actually a pretty darn good game, and it was an arcade game too. I used to play this a lot. I had it on the NES as well, but I think the Genesis version is way better. Did you ever play Cyberball?
Oh yeah, of course.
Cyberball's cool.
I'm looking forward to a time, and eventually they're going to invent robots that can play football. I'll watch that.
I think I would. Do you think that will happen one day? I don't know.
Make the field like a mile long because they're robots, of course. So,
Yeah, that would be funny. And then, of course, probably one of the most legendary legendary fictional football games, Mutant League Football, which is a freaking fantastic game. But you know that it uses the Madden engine. Yep. That this is the Madden engine, and they just painted it over with these amazing. This was amazing, man. This game was so fun. I played the crap out of this. Did you have a lot of connections to Mutant League Football?
Not as a kid, so it's kind of off of my radar, mostly because I grew up with Super Nintendo. But nowadays collecting for the Sega Genesis is kind of allowed me to experience those. I first got Mutant League Hockey, which interestingly enough was a reskin of NHL '94. Which is one of my favorite hockey games of all time. So
classic.
That kind of matches up. And then I think, didn't they release another version of this recently?
They released a modern version of Mutant League Football. That's correct. And it was actually developed by the same not EA, but the same guy that developed it. I have it. It's pretty good. I didn't really get like seriously into it, and I don't think it like kind of got popular, but it was fun. And I think I have it on my Xbox. I still have it. But yeah, they re-released it as a new game, and it's not terrible. It's not the same though.
Yeah.
And then of course we're into the PlayStation era, and then obviously Madden is definitely hitting its stride. Really quality game, really great graphics. This is a great game too. And Madden is just in a great place now. Like Madden games are great at this time period. They're amazing. Personally, I liked a lot of these games, but Ryan, it was really, let me see if I have this pulled up. It was really when the Dreamcast came out.
Right. 2K.
And I will tell you my experience with this. I bought a Dreamcast, and NFL 2K was a part of the launch lineup, I believe. I could be wrong. And I didn't know much about it. I was like, okay, but here's the thing. EA decided they weren't going to make any games on the Dreamcast. So Sega's like, well, screw you. Now we got to make then we'll make our own game. And that's what they did. They got together with Virtual Concepts, which was a fantastic developer, and they made one of the best, or the beginning of one of the best NFL simulation franchise video games ever, Ryan, in the history of video games. This game I fell in love with. I remember still, I had all my video games in the basement. I had my Dreamcast set up, and I remember playing it for the first time and saying, wow, this is really good. Holy moly. Okay. I was very impressed. And that says a lot for back then. I was just like, for a brand new franchise video game.
Right.
Did you
Not
ever play
from EA?
Did you ever play 2K back then on the Dreamcast and stuff like that?
No, it was later on where I got into 2K titles, but it's funny. There became a split, right? Where either you were a big 2K fan or you were a big Madden fan. And it almost became like the console wars, right? Between the folks who were really big into 2K and really big into Madden. And, it's a shame that 2K kind of didn't last as long as Madden has, because I would have loved to have seen 2K continue.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Right.
And I'll get into it. But you're right. 2K graphics on the Dreamcast were phenomenal, and gameplay was just unmatched, says Manny. So that's a good question. So, yes, Ryan, what ended up happening to me is I fell into the NFL side, NFL 2K side, and I really believed in this series. So NFL 2K2, which was the third game they released, was so good on the Dreamcast. But then, obviously, the Dreamcast went away, and here is the PS2 coming out on the Xbox. So Madden continuing to do very well. Madden 2006 was a very good Madden. There was nothing wrong with this. It was fantastic. But then the Xbox releases, and wait, I before I go into NFL 2K5, which is the greatest football game ever made, the Xbox also created, Microsoft had their own football game called NFL Fever, which had Peyton Manning on the cover. And I don't know if you remember this game, but it was actually pretty darn good too. NFL Fever was NFL Fever 2002. And I had it when the Xbox first came out. It was one of the first games I ever played on Xbox Live as well. Just so you know. But NFL Fever was pretty good. Did you ever play it?
I did. And it's funny, I forgot about this game.
Yeah,
until
a lot
you
of
just
people
mentioned
do.
it.
Most people do.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning was on the cover, and it was well developed, but I think Microsoft ended up giving up on their sport franchises.
Right.
And then they just went into like letting Madden and NFL 2K kind of breathe, and they probably could have pushed this further, but NFL Fever I wanted to mention. I have it. I still have it on my Xbox, and it's fantastic. Now we're going to get into, so then 2K comes out on the Xbox, and then we get to this point, Ryan, where NFL 2K5 comes out. And NFL 2K5 encompasses one of the greatest football games ever made, and to this day, still considered one of the best football games ever made. Did you ever play NFL 2K5?
I did. Yep, absolutely.
Now,
that was a staple at college in the dorm room between me and one of my buddies. We had an apartment. We would play a few different games together. NFL 2K5 was one of them. Tiger Woods Golf, which is kind of nerdy, but we would play that a lot as well.
I love Tiger Woods games back then, man.
And then like Fusion Frenzy was the other one.
Fusion Frenzy. I love that game.
Yep.
So 2K, this is where things start to really go crazy. So 2K decides we're going to sell this game for $20. Because what they wanted to do was, like you said, there were two divides. There was like 2K fans and Madden fans, but Madden was still popular. But what they did was they're like, we're going to sell this game for $20 and get Madden people to try it. This is actually an article from 2004. ESPN NFL 2K5 officially sets their price at $19.99. Wow. Ryan, that was insane for back then. Remember?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And what they did was they're like, and what I remember happening is that a lot of my friends that were playing Madden were like, you know what? It's only $20. I might as well try it. It was one of the smartest marketing ploys ever, because what it did was it got Madden fans to give a try on the 2K side. I remember Madden fans were like, this is actually pretty good. But it was really an issue, because what ended up happening is EA got scared, and you know that they dropped their price to $29.99 at the time to compete. It wasn't $20, but they went down half. But that's when it all went downhill. EA was afraid, scared, And they decided to reach out to the NFL and say, listen, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars to give us exclusive rights to NFL license for simulation football games. I'm not going to say it wasn't a good move by EA. It was a great move. But it ruined this moment. Ryan ruined football simulation from this point on, because the 2K series hit its absolute peak. And I remember playing 2K5 and being like, it's only up from here. Like, if this is the greatest game ever made, then the next 2K6 is going to be fantastic. And as a football fan, I was stoked. And then this happened and everything went downhill. And EA has just been copy pasting their engine for the last I don't even know how many years, like 18 years, dude.
Right.
18 years of hell. As someone that loves football, loves football video games, I've been forced to buy one single game. That's a monopoly, right?
It is. And when you eliminate competition like that, it also eliminates kind of the innovation side to things. You don't have anyone to compete against, so whatever product you put out, people have to accept if they want to play football games, and that's a bad thing for the marketplace, honestly.
Now, there were a couple of good like this is Madden 2007. This is like one of the first Maddens after the license, and it was good, but I was still forced to buy this game, and I can't believe, I don't blame EA. I blame the NFL for not giving a crap about the quality of their football games. They don't care because they make $2 billion a year, Ryan, off of this freaking game. And that's what's sad, is that the NFL does not give a crap. And that sucks.
Well, and they did the same thing with like DirecTV and the NFL Sunday Ticket, right? They made it an exclusive thing where you could offer all the games you wanted to watch on one particular platform, and that's it. They have an exclusive license. I think that's actually expiring soon, or it has expired, but it's the same thing. The NFL is just looking for money. They don't really care what the end user experience is, and that, I agree, is kind of a crappy move.
So let's see. So 2K is out of they're out of it for a little bit. But Ryan, you know that in 2008 they released a game called All Pro Football 2008? Did you know about this game?
I did not.
So this is arguably the greatest football game ever made, because this is in 2008, they're like, okay, so the NFL took our license away, but we're going to come back and make a new game. So what they did was they made a game called All Pro Football 2008, and they paid Hall of Famers to be in the game. So they had Joe Namath, they had Jerry Rice, they had Barry Sanders. But the problem is that there was no license. But dude, this game was fantastic. I still have it. Not enough people talk about it. And a lot of people think that this is actually one of the best simulation games, because what they did was they took oh, by the way, there's some great Bills in this game as well. Like Andre Reed's in this, and Jim Kelly's in this. Every team represented like at least 3 or 4 Hall of Famers from their franchises. So it was fantastic. I mean, look at this game. It was great. It was just awesome. But obviously the miss was missing an NFL license. It was cool. It was a good idea. But they never actually decided to come back after this and make football. But a lot of people don't know that All Pro Football 2008 existed. And Travis in chat says, how does Madden get better? What can they do to improve gameplay? Good question, dude. I don't know. It's not about improving. They're just kind of, they make all these BS announcements saying there's this new improvement in this, there's this new improvement in that. And that gets me to Madden 23, which just came out, Ryan. And I don't know if you play any modern Madden games.
It's been a while, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think the last time I got into Madden was probably 2015.
I was sitting playing this the other day, and I'm like, this sucks. This is still Madden 20. This reminds me of Madden 2020. This is a Madden 2021, 2022, Madden 2018. There's just, I don't know what it is about it that it just doesn't improve, but it just doesn't improve. They don't give a crap. There's no competition. And what they do care about is Ultimate Team, where they make all that money off of microtransactions. They've gone away from really focusing on the people that love to play the simulation side and play the franchise modes, and they really just care about how do we make the experience for the Madden Ultimate Team so people spend money on microtransactions. And I don't play Ultimate Team, but it's one of the biggest bullshit like Ponzi schemes in the history of football games, and that is sad. And I'm so upset, as you could tell. I freaking can't stand it. Jan says, hey, Jan, it's good to see you. Just heard last night that someone is into Madden, but it's totally for them more of a colony sim or strategy game, managing the rosters. Sure. I mean, that's fine, but it sucks. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell everyone it sucks.
I think one of the things that they could do is rather than release a new Madden game every single year is offer up a DLC to update the rosters.
Because that's what they might as well be doing, right?
Right. It would cost them less money and at the end of the day to just create new DLC and then release a game every 3 years that is either graphically or gameplay wise superior to the previous one. I'm just surprised they don't do that. Because I mean, it's expensive to create games, and then package them and put them in physical media and what have you. So I'm surprised that hasn't dawned on them. Like, hey, maybe we should just make like a Madden, call it Madden all time, and just update the rosters and maybe even some of the gameplay.
Because it's a money-making machine, Ryan.
Well, and the thing is, you could still make a buttload of money off of it and not have to have a whole lot of cost involved just to update the rosters.
I don't know what to say. But there's one good silver lining. A few years ago, they said that NFL 2K series returns. So they made a deal with the NFL to come back, but not in simulation football, in arcade football. So 2K is coming back. They're going to do some sort of NFL Blitz style game, NFL Street. But I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I think that's cool, but still, like, I'm a simulation guy, right? I want to feel like I'm playing a simulation football game. Jan says, I remember playing 2005 2K version, had a few opportunities to play that, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Absolutely. It was great. So I asked a few people, Ryan, what's your favorite NFL football video game of all time? And Twitter. And we got people like Nintendo Dork said, probably Tecmo Bowl. Brent and Lauren said, this is a great game, Joe Montana. I have lots of nostalgia for NFL Blitz on the GameCube, but I also enjoyed Madden. Identity itself says ESPN 2K5, and another person said ESPN 2K5 as well. And I mean, so as a football fan, Ryan, you don't have you're not like excited to play football video games anymore, are you?
Not really. And it's the same reason that Call of Duty kind of fell off for me as well.
Oh,
it's like
don't even get me started. I can't.
Right, like a copy paste. So the one difference that I think that maybe would get me back into it is that it's been a while since I've done online matches with folks, and now that I have access to more people who are into gaming as a result of being a part of gaming Twitter, that might entice me if I found out that more people were into it, because I would love to do stuff like that. I mean, I would get more enjoyment out of playing with friends than I would playing the computer or playing randos online.
You know what's interesting, and I wanted to ask. I'll ask you this question. I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's because of Madden coming out, and also like we're in this. You know, the movie industry has really pushed forward on a lot of remakes and stuff, and now the video game industry is like kind of like mirroring how the movie industry has become, and it's more about remasters and remakes and less about originality in game design. And I feel like we're in this really weird era where, don't get me wrong, there's still great games out there, but we got these games that are being released unfinished. We got like really poor releases dropping where I remember, you know, when you bought a game, it was finished and that was it. Do you remember that? Do you remember that concept? Do you remember that? I don't. I think remasters and remakes are cool, but like The Last of Us, stop giving us The Last of Us. I don't want a remake of The Last of Us. You just did a remaster of PS4. Now you want to do a complete remake of the same game we've played for the last 12 years? What the hell? Stop it.
GTA 5. How many versions of GTA 5 are there?
There's a million. It's so crazy. It's driving me crazy. I'm so glad that you and I got to live through like a time of video games where you could really appreciate a release. Now, like Cyberpunk is the perfect example, and I experienced it. Do you know, Ryan, I have the PS5. I got Cyberpunk. every playthrough of the original release of Cyberpunk, every time I put it on, it crashed. Every single time. I lost saves. How could you enjoy a game when it's not finished? How could you be a developer and rush a game? Nintendo has a really cool quote, or what's his name? The guy
Miyamoto.
Yeah, like I'm not like verbatim here, but he's like a game that's rushed is never good, but a game that's delayed has potential to be great, or something like that. And that's so true. And Nintendo still, I think, they'll come out and be transparent and say, look, everyone, we're pushing this. And I think that's smart because I trust Nintendo, even today, because I know they're going to put out a quality product, right, Ryan? Like they've always come through. Am I wrong or am I right? For the most part.
For the most part, yes.
I mean, in modern day, they're probably one of the better ones that do good releases on games. I mean, there's been, obviously ups and downs, but I think comparing it to others, though, Jan says, so many early access games I refused to buy after Valheim until recent with Core Keeper when friends were playing. I'll go back to Madden when Tom Brady goes back to the Pats. Well, I just think that, and I was playing online on Madden the other day, and I was just so mad. I'm sitting there, I'm just so frustrated and mad because Madden just brings up this conversation about how the modern video game world where there's lazy development. And I think that there's another side to it where there's all these retro inspired games that are fantastic. Like that market is awesome. And that's just because they're feeding into the nostalgia of what we knew and loved about video games. That's a whole nother episode, probably. But what are your we're coming towards a close here, Ryan. What are your final thoughts of kind of like going through the motions of football games? Anything pop out to you, or just the fact that Madden sucks, or what?
Well, I will say this. I think that playing football games, I mean, I know with most retro collectors, sports games aren't very popular, but I always enjoyed football games because honestly, you only get one Sunday a week to watch your team or whatever day a week it is. But as a kid, that was always a magical experience for me, was watching football with my dad and my brother and my mom. And so to be able to experience that, whenever I wanted to when playing football games was a big draw for it. And then, as the evolution, as the games got better, as you were able to, utilize more of the system, because all of a sudden there was the ability to call plays that weren't just like 4 choices or just one choice, right? It became much more immersive in that sense. And, but later on, you're right. I think with some of the changes to 2K versus Madden, and then, Madden kind of taking over, that it's been on a kind of a downward slope, at least for me personally. I mean, I would imagine there are people who are super fans of Madden and buy it every year and absolutely love it. So my opinion hopefully does not dissuade you from feeling that way. But it's unfortunate because variety, I think, is a good thing.
Variety is a good thing. And I think that I feel like I'm surprised that there hasn't been monopolies are illegal in the United States of America. Yet this has been a monopoly that's been thriving for nearly 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't get how that's been okay. I don't understand. I'll never understand. And I hope in my lifetime they open up the license, because I think the NFL said, you know what, let's let other developers use the license. And why don't they charge those guys individually so that they can make money across the board, across different developers, and give competition, because that would be awesome. But it probably won't happen for a long time. Anyway, I digress. Ryan, thanks on a short notice for coming on today. I actually made a mistake. I misunderstood you. I asked you to come on, but I really wanted to make sure that people know that next Friday is really awesome. It's our 2nd annual Mario Kart charity stream. We got tons of retro gamers joining. We can't wait to have people stop by. It's one of my favorite times of the year, Ryan, and I love that we've started this. I don't remember how we even got it started. I think we just DM'd each other. We're like, hey, what do you think about a charity stream around your RGB high score stuff, and kind of merged into this, man. How do you feel about this? Isn't it fun? I'm so stoked.
last year was probably the best experience I've ever had on Twitch. So
Oh
even
man.
though that's going to be a tough bar to get above, I think this tournament in general, just because of what it's doing, it's not just people having fun, but it's people having fun for a good cause. Makes it so much more impactful and so much more fun
Yeah,
for
and
everyone.
we're so people know we're supporting Stand Up to Cancer research, and we raised $1,500 last year. Are we trying to raise the goal this year? What are we thinking?
That's a good question. That's something I wanted to talk to you on
Okay,
Tuesday
we'll talk.
about.
We'll offline about that. But we are going to have some giveaways this year. I'm really excited to say that I have some cool stuff that I'm going to be bringing to the thing. We're going to have some milestones this year, from game giveaways to clothing. Believe it or not, I don't want to give it away yet, but really excited to add a little bit of incentives to the stream this year. We're going to have a lot of those. So stoked. Ryan, tell me a little bit about what's upcoming for Gamers Week. Anything cool?
Uh, you know, Nothing planned as of yet, or at least nothing I can talk about publicly. But as we continue, I mean, obviously this week we're doing a giveaway for a copy of Capcom Fighting. So if you are interested in free games, we certainly do provide those. It's on my Twitter,
Oh,
not on not
here
on
it is.
Gamers Week.
Here it is.
There it is. Yep.
Yep.
And we've got a few guests that we are looking to have on the show. Every once in a while, we get a chance to bring in somebody who is relevant to gaming history.
Yep.
We've had like Howard Scott Warshaw, Rebecca Heineman, Kev Bayless. So there, we've had some pretty big names on the show, and we're continuing to look to expand that. So look forward to maybe some surprises as we
That's
come
awesome,
down.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've had a few cool history people on this show.
for sure.
I think my favorite was Daniel Pesina
Mm-hmm.
from Mortal Kombat. That was awesome. That I interviewed him. It was like literally like in 2020 during the pandemic. I mean, we're not
It's
out of
crazy.
it quite yet, but yeah, man, it's always awesome to have you on, and I really appreciate it making the time today.
Thank you for having me on short notice.
Yeah, and everyone just check out if you don't know. And I just want to tell everyone on VOD, I'll put the links in the description. So please check out the Gamers Week podcast. They're awesome. They do some really great stuff. And also shout out to Blue and Donnie, who are the co-hosts with you on that wonderful show. I've also been, I filled in on that show for you before. I've done, and I think, I'm excited to always be on that show with you guys. And I think the format's awesome. And can't wait. And I do want to remind people, just so you know, we have the retro gaming community on Twitter, which is something that I'm really proud of that we started just recently, only 3 months ago. We're nearing 1,600 members, Ryan. It's really crazy. But as you know, it's a positive experience. It's really just a place to bring the retro community together, where, what's really interesting, Ryan, about it is that I've noticed a lot of people that come into it are people that don't post retro games on their main Twitter, but they could come into the retro community and feel like, hey, I could post stuff that I love that's outside of my normal Twitter account. Because some people might be like a design Twitter or something that's outside of gaming. This gives you an opportunity to post things that you love about retro gaming that's not a part of your main content. So I've noticed that's something that has been really cool. We are doing a giveaway next month. Every month we do a giveaway, but this time I'm giving away a Dreamcast game voted by the community, Ryan.
Love that.
The NES, the Super NES lost by 1%. People wanted the Dreamcast game over the Super NES, which was really tough race there. I'm not much all into retro games or nostalgia, but I enjoy being here. Oh, thanks, Jan. Shout out to you. But anyway, anything cool? I think you're going to watch the Bills game today. Is that right?
That's right. So what I end up doing is I watch it with my family via Discord. So we get a chance to watch the game together like it's the old times. So
Awesome.
Even though we're not in the same state, we're like 1,000 miles away from each other, we can still watch it together.
That's awesome. Let me see here. It looks like I was going to raid someone, but there's like no one I know online. So maybe not today. Screw you, raiders. We don't need to raid them. Anyway, Ryan, thank you so much, man. And remember, check out Retrogamebrews right there in the chat. The Nightbot's telling you where to go. You got his Twitch, you got his Twitter, you got his podcast, whatever. Overdose on Twitch. Hey, Ryan, I'm still around here from the crypto days. Hope all is well. Who's that? Is that someone for me, or are you talking to Ryan there? I don't know. Well, welcome, Overdose. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the highlighted message as well. Ryan, as always, it's a pleasure. I'm Andy. This is Cafe BTW, a gaming morning podcast. We will be back next Saturday. We have a couple of guests lined up in September, so get ready. And I'm also heading to PAX West. So I'm going to be doing a recap show about my experience at PAX West in Seattle, first weekend of September. And then we're going to TwitchCon in October. So we're going to have a lot of cool stuff coming up. Really appreciate everyone stopping by. Ryan, thanks so much. And have a great weekend, everyone. And bye, everyone on VOD. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.